What's up, everybody? It's the Hard Deconstruction. You can find us at hardyconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/hardyconstruction, as well as facebook.com/the hardyconstruction with your host, Comp, and
Pilot Wings.
today's film is
It Follows.
It Follows is a 2015 horror film written by David Robert Mitchell. It's also directed by him. Stars Micah Monroe, Keir Gilchrist, Olivia Lucardi. It's about a young woman is followed by an unknown supernatural force after getting involved in a sexual encounter. Sexual.
I like that.
So, Danny, what history do you have with this film, if any?
1 day's history.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
I saw it yesterday.
So, It Follows is a movie that's getting a lot of buzz as of late because it actually made a decent amount of cash in its first showing a couple of weeks ago. It was supposed to.
Oh yeah, wow! It made a lot. A $2 million budget. It's made $16.5 million already,
which is pretty decent. It was actually supposed to go to theaters for 1 week and then go video on demand, which is basically it'll just go straight to television. You can watch it or rent it off your cable box and stuff like that. Netflix, yeah, right. The problem is it made so much money that they actually were like, you know what, let's hold off on putting in video demand, which is pretty much a good signal that a movie is making well, because this had a good word of mouth. And I've known about it for a long time. This is probably the most hype horror film I've heard about in a while. Speaking of all the horror
films. It deserves the hype, though. It actually does.
It does, and I was very worried going into it because then I'd see some reviews going, "Oh man, it's not as good as blah 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 this," and I was like, no movie, because this was extremely hyped for me. This is like the most hyped horror film I personally have heard about.
It's such a minimal movie. That's what I like about it.
And the thing is, the other film I had was waiting to see was Spring, and that exceeded my expectations, and so has this. And I liked it a lot, and I think the differences with these type of films, and also A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, those are my top 3 horror films for me so far this year.
Seriously, there's a new fucking golden age right now. It's great.
I think we've just been lucky picking good films. So until
there's been some really good movies lately.
Right?
The whole quality's going up.
Yeah, people are actually giving it an actual solid try with their horror films. They're trying something different approaches. Those 3 films, to me, the top 3 horror films that I've seen from 2014 to 2015 myself right now is the number 1 is Spring, number 2 is It Follows, and the third one is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Those are my 3 top horrors.
And we did those just recently. Yeah, I really liked Resolution too, although I don't think a lot of people did, but I love that movie.
Yeah, Resolution is great too, from the makers of Spring. So if you guys want to check that out, it's definitely worth a watch. It's a great movie.
Oh, Field in England, but that's not really horror, but I loved it.
Yeah, that's another great. We've been lucky to see some really good films, and It follows in that tradition by being a really, and I wasn't being facetious with that wording. Anyway, so with this film, it's very low key, and it's very. You said it's a $2 million budget.
Yeah, and you know what? The fucking way they use the budget is perfect. It's so minimal and shit, and the soundtrack is awesome. And the actors are all really good, and the writing is really good, and the dialogue is awesome. It's a good movie.
So let's get into the storyline of this film. This film is about a young lady named Jay Height, played by Micah Monroe, she's very cute. She reminds me of, she looks like a blonde version of, and I don't know why I just forgot her name. The very cute girl from Final Destination 3, the girlfriend
She is in Final Destination 3.
No, she's not. She's in Final Destination 3. She had to be 5 years old in that movie.
Hold on. You keep talking.
I'm thinking about the actress from Final Destination 3 and
never mind. She's not.
Exactly, shithead. And the girl from was that Death Proof? You like her a lot. She has those big saucer
Mary
eyeballs.
Elizabeth Winstead?
Right. She has that same look of Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
And it's funny because she's the chosen person for my game of who would you do this curse for? I would do it for her.
Oh, would you? Yeah, listen, I don't blame all
I would. And I know my plan too. I would just go out every day and bang lots of unsuspecting prostitutes.
I mean, that is hinted here. But anyway, Jay Height is a young woman who is seeing a young another young guy. I forget his name in the movie, but
Hugh.
What's that?
Hugh.
Hugh.
That's
All
his
right,
fake
Hugh.
name.
The fake name is Jeff. So she's seeing this guy named Hugh, he looks like an all-American kind of guy. What we don't see, what we actually see at the beginning is a woman who's, freaking out, and she's running away from her house, and she's being followed by this unseen kind of thing. So what happens is we end up seeing that she smartly, for some reason, drives off into the beach, and she calls
I think she actually wanted to kill herself because
she was just
waited
tired of
for
it all, right?
Yeah.
So we can assume that that's the last girl Hugh slept with. Because what I like about this is that the curse is recessive, that if it kills the last person, it'll just come backwards and get you. It's not like The Ring.
Yeah, that's that was actually a big important part of the plot.
Yeah,
because otherwise...
and it keeps it has that, it leaves you with that feeling that it's never safe. As opposed to, if you kill the killer from Scream, at least, it'll take a couple years from there, somebody might come back and take the mantle. But with this, it's always going to come back to you no matter what. Like, if people die off, it's always going to be there, no matter what. And it's not really explained what happens. But anyway, so this girl dies at the very beginning of the film, and it's a pretty graphic, they don't show her get killed, but it's graphic what happens to her. Like, her leg is snapped backwards, facing.
Would you rather have this curse or, really bad gonorrhea?
I'd rather have this curse. See, I was trying to think of how... Okay, so how would you... What's your plan? You said you would go see prostitutes all the time, right?
Yeah, I'd make it like a daily ritual,
I would say...
I would travel a lot, too, because the thing walks, right? It doesn't fly planes.
Yeah. Could you imagine the bus fare and the... It just walks, right? So it's not taking bus or anything.
Yeah, it walks. It walks through the ocean.
Awesome,
so, I'd go to... every month I would travel to a different country.
But it always switches bodies and stuff. But it's the same person. It just switches the look of it, right? That's pretty much what it is. My theory was I'd have sex with that girl, right? Oh, she would have sex with me. Listen, we can't control people here. And then I would quickly fill out paperwork and work for the adult film industry, where I would become a cameraman. And
you would kill everyone.
Pretty much, I would, and I wouldn't do. You'd have sex, and then they'd pass it on to somebody else, and it'd be, at least you'd be safe for a while, because then all these people would be banging each other. And
yeah, right.
And then the sequel would just be a guy working in the pornography business. It'd be very funny. Anyway,
I mean, if you did it with if you did prostitutes though, they'd have sex with their clients. Their clients would have sex with their wives or whatever.
But you got to think,
would have sex with the mailman.
You got to think that always comes back, because you got to be guaranteed you're you're having sex with somebody who is sexually active with people who are always sexually active. I would almost say, I know. I don't know.
Maybe you got to go to Brazil or something.
Could you imagine that? You're having sex with somebody who has this curse, and then they quickly take a bike ride to the next person fucking them, and that It Follows monster is just there, and you just see him walk away from you and start walking to the next person, like a Benny Hill sketch.
You know who you have to do it with? You have to do it with people who travel a lot. So, have sex with,
stewardess?
A very successful businesswoman who's, constantly hopping on planes and shit.
Yeah, and it's cool because if you have this curse... So basically what happens if you have sex, it's like some kind of bizarre STD. It's not contracted where you become a zombie and it's just an infection that destroys you. This is some kind of phantasm that follows you. Is that the right word, or is phantasm just a made-up bullshit word for a movie? It's a phantom. Let's say it's a phantom instead.
I don't know what it is.
Remember,
it's an entity. It's an entity.
Yeah, right. It's an entity. I would almost say it's a mix of a succubus / incubus, because it does kill you by having sex with you. Basically, we do find out later that kid. I think that
Greg's
kid
mom has sex with him.
That kid's mother turns into his mother and then has sex with him. So it is having sex with him.
Really rough sex. It likes it rough.
It sucks the life out of you. So it basically is like a succubus incubus. It's not stated like straight up what it is, but that's basically what it is.
And I'd only have sex with bad people and people who are suicidal.
Danny, you like bad boys? Good for you. So what I like about the creature itself is that it does change its image every time, and there are some really effective scenes when the part where Jay is in the room and she's freaked out in the house, and then you see that 8-foot man just walk through the door, and she freaks out and jumps out. Another cool thing about the monster in this film is is that it's invisible to everybody else. I do like the fact that you're able to touch it even though it's invisible. So
And
nobody
you can
else
shoot it.
Right, nobody else saw this creature, but that scene in the beach when they're just kind of trying to relax, and it really is an intense scene because she's just sitting there with the three of them and the other guy who she slept with in high school, who then sleeps with her again later on.
Yeah.
It's just and you see it walking in the background coming towards them, and since nobody else sees it, I can imagine in the theater seeing this, just freaking out. Just in general,
Right.
it's
I like
just,
that they eventually see it though. Like, you know, they believe it and shit. Because that was cool. Because I thought they would just think she's crazy the whole time, but they actually know it's true.
I mean, even from the beginning when Jay has her small relationship with Hugh, we get to see a little interesting aspect about her characters. How she's at the beginning of the film, she's swimming by herself, and then we do meet the other characters like her sister. Who's her sister again? Her sister is
Kelly.
Kelly, as well as I'm sure you love that other friend. I pegged that girl as you falling in love with that brunette girl with the glasses.
Oh, right.
The one that
Yeah, she was cute.
Her first major thing is farting. It's an amazing thing. And then there's also Keir Gilchrist, who plays the nerdy Paul, who's been in love with her basically since they were children. And I've always had a problem with Keir Gilchrist's face for some reason, because he just looks like...
You got a problem with it?
Yeah, because the first trailer I ever saw was... what movie was it that I saw him in? It was like a movie with him and Zach Galifianakis, where he was at a place where they kept people locked down who were trying to commit suicide. It's kind of a
Dead
funny story.
Silence?
It was a movie called It's Kind of a Funny Story. And that's basically the first movie that also had Emma.
Oh, and I'm sorry if you hear a xylophone and bass right now. My neighbor is playing.
Nobody
that.
hears it.
Okay.
So that movie, I remember looking at him and I was like, "Why is this guy in this movie?" And I was like, I just looked at him and I was like, "There's something wrong here." But then watching this movie, he's really likable and he's very cool and he's very funny in this movie too, because I think a lot of us have been in his shoes. I guess you have to be a certain person to be in this guy's shoes, who like completely in love with somebody.
Would you
interested in
do
you.
that for that woman specifically?
What, knowing that there's a creature from beyond trying to kill you even though you slept with them?
Yeah.
I guess it depends. I'm sure in high school I would have done that.
Right.
The fact that I'm seeing people get split in half. Oh, well, he didn't actually see anybody get killed, but he did see her. He did get
Well,
like
you
knocked across.
saw her try to get killed almost.
He got knocked across. It was a funny graphic though when he gets swatted aside by the monster, and he looks at a giant scar on his stomach. So he knew that there was some sort of invisible creature there.
See, now what I wonder is, could he get like a quasi version of that from eating her out?
Yeah, the director said even same sex.
Kissing though, like could kissing give it?
Nah, I don't think so.
What about fingering?
I think it's actual like sex and penetration. It might be. The director said it wouldn't matter if it's same sex or not. It's like.
But yeah, but what about boob play?
I don't know if you just if you're standing across from the room and jerking off and looking at them.
Is it maybe because I guess it's not like a physical thing, as in like it's a blood transfusion sort of thing. Maybe it's like just the actual act of sex is what like gives this thing its power.
Here's what the trivia says. It says the director said that neither condom nor same gender sex would stop the monster, and the curse would still be passed. So it doesn't specifically talk about fingering or butthole play. So I guess it's just sex itself. So I guess you could do whatever you want until that person.
All right,
dead.
that sucks though, because like if it wasn't, if you could do all the other stuff, like that stuff's fun. You don't have to have sex.
So you kind of got to wait for them to notice that there's a monster coming after them while you're beating off. At least you can't like. It's like.
I mean, what the worst thing that happens is you're doing your thing and like they get killed. You keep going until you're finished, and then you leave.
You just beat up on their shoes. Yeah, I think it's a very effective scene, especially when she's with Hugh at the movie theater, and there's that whole guy playing the piano, and they have a cute little game that she plays, which I hope they made up for the movie itself, where, who would you rather be in the room kind of thing.
Right.
And he notices he picks somebody across the hallway. So he picks the woman that is not actually there, the creature, and it's like a pretty unsettling scene. So now we're knowing like what's going on with Hugh. So he thought he had kind of fixed the situation by having sex with somebody. I guess.
What a jerk! He just like ruined this girl's life.
Yeah, it's a very shitty thing because that guy, I guess, he was trying to find somebody who's smart, but she's a very sweet person, so he really is a piece of shit. He really is a piece of garbage.
Yeah, no, there's no way you could do that without being a piece of shit, unless you're doing it to somebody who, like, is a bad person.
And he necessarily...
Like, I would have sex with, like, George Bush or something. Like,
and fine. He does not get a comeuppance, so we do not see him get a... Besides being scared shitless for the most part,
all we know is that if she dies... if Paul dies and then she dies, then he'll die, maybe.
So let's talk about the various incarnations of the creature. What was your favorite one? Well,
I like the old lady.
The old lady was which one?
The one in the school. I was like walking towards the school.
You didn't like the girl. You didn't like the girl peeing her pants, walking after.
Oh, which part was that?
There was a girl with glasses who comes in. It's in the apartment when she's...
Oh, that's the one that actually grabs her.
Yeah, right. It's no, that's the... Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, it is. Because there's one where it's this girl with glasses just pissing her pants for some reason. I don't know. Right. I don't get the... I guess...
Well, it wasn't piss. The thing was so horny, it was squirting.
I thought those were all people... Yeah, right. I thought those were all people that had died from the curse, and they're just coming back, looking. But then there's a sequence towards the end where we actually see Jay's father comes after her.
And also, Greg is Greg. The Greg's guy is actually Greg, breaking into his own house, remember?
What do you mean?
The guy Greg, the next door neighbor? Isn't that like, remember when it breaks into his house? Isn't that him that's breaking into his house? Like, it made itself look like him?
Oh, is that what you... I didn't notice that. I thought it was just like a regular looking guy, maybe from afar.
Hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of remember thinking that.
But there's some really interesting camera work in this film. There's a lot of long takes where the camera will just swivel around in a circle. And I don't know what the intention is of that, but I think it's just to give the film some sort of like atmosphere. Like
I think it's more to be like, is there anything hiding?
To me, that felt more like a 70s kind of film. You know how like in the 70s they would just kind of linger on shots for long times, and they would just get a whole like stereoscopic view. Is that the right word? Stereoscopic? I don't know, but it's a whole like 360 of an area for no reason. Let's get into Keir Gilchrist's character, who is
Jay.
No.
Oh wait, no, Paul.
What did you think about Paul in the film?
I liked him, but I felt bad for him because now he's doomed to have sex with this girl forever.
Do you think he did it because he finally wanted to have sex with her and he's had this crush so long because...
Yeah, I think he was just so horny that he was willing to do that. I think in like 2 years he's going to regret it.
I think he genuinely cares for her, so that's why he did it. But I think, his mind was clouded by somebody he had a crush on. There was girls I had a crush on plenty of times in high school that sent me right to hell. And this movie kind of puts you in the situation where, like, don't sleep with people you love with to risk your life. Just live your life, Just do what you want.
Yeah, you don't have to get killed by a monster to sleep with someone. Just go find someone else.
Because Jay has some pretty, I guess, unimpressive sex with the neighbor boy. Is it Greg?
As she's in the hospital.
Yeah, which is kind of sexy, but, not for her, I guess, because she didn't seem like she liked it, but... yeah,
and then she has sex with the guys on the boats, I'm imagining. They didn't show it, but...
Oh, right, yeah. Because somebody was saying on IMDb, they were like, did she fuck all three of those guys? Which I guess could be a possibility. But
she only needs to fuck one of them. She doesn't need to fuck all three.
Yeah, she only needs to... Yeah, but I mean, maybe she thought whatever, but she did fuck at least one of those guys. I assume she had sex with all three of those guys, and they just kept that out of the movie. But
meanwhile, she just killed, like, 3 innocent men who were just, like, fishing or something.
Oh, but they're bad because they had sex with her. That's what it is.
Well, come on. I mean, a pretty girl walks up to you and wants to have sex, like, you're gonna say yes, probably, unless you're in a relationship.
They probably all, like, gave each other high fives while doing it and giving each other's, like... I never understood that. Like, I've seen...
You're just trying to justify murder right now.
No, I was picturing more of just guys high-fiving each other while they're teaming up on a woman. Like, you never really see girls in pornography, if there's like 4 girls in the scene having sex with one guy, they don't really give each other high fives. But if it's like 5 guys doing it, they'll give each other handshakes. It doesn't make any sense. Like the girls all are into each other, they'll give each other. I guess you know what I guess thing about it is because the women will kiss each other, you know, I guess for the mood.
Right.
But the guys will give each other handshakes. I guess that's their fighting homophobia. They're just that's their way of signaling that they appreciate each other's presence in the room, piling on a woman about to make her look like a human.
Well, then their balls slap together, and it's, you know.
Ay vey.
That's how they applaud. That's how they applaud each other, by they slapping their balls.
What did you think about the atmosphere of the film?
It was
music and stuff like
amazing,
that.
actually. It was so, like, simple. Like, it was so simple. That's what I liked about it. Because, I don't know, I've just seen so many bad movies with this show, and, you know, it was a good one. It was a good one, and it made me happy.
And it's so funny because this type of film, like, it's easy to kind of be in the hype, like the other 2 films I would mention before, that it would be so easy to be like, oh, these movies are for hipsters. This one, not necessarily. This is more, you know.
I don't think it was for hipsters.
Nah, not
what
this one.
city were they in?
Maybe Vampire, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is more of a hipster film, and Spring is a close one because it's more of a romance than it is a horror film.
I would take the
But
curse for that vampire girl, which would be ironic because I'm with, like, a demonic sort of entity, and I have a demon following me.
I think what happens here is that it's such a simplified film, as in the way that it's executed, that people would think, oh, this isn't really it is a horror film, but it's not gory enough. Because there's a lot of people that want to see just straight gore and stuff like that. And it's just like it has to be good.
No, I like gore too, but
me too. Like, listen,
not appropriate for this.
One of my favorite movies of all time is Story of Ricky, and that's like incredibly.
Oh,
gory
that's
film.
amazing! I haven't seen that in forever.
But it was a film that backs up its gore by having at least entertaining shit going on. You can't just watch a gory film just for the fucking sake of it. Although I did like, what was that movie?
Dead Alive?
Whatever. No, that German movie that we saw, the horror German movie that you thought was horrible.
Oh, the short stories?
Yeah, that's great. I love that movie. I gotta figure out.
No, that one was terrible. I don't even remember what it was about. I just remember hating it.
Anyway, but with this, there's a spectacular Scooby-Doo, and I use that quoting another interview that they had. I forgot which website had it. A very Scooby-Doo-esque way to try to capture the bad guy. What did you think of that plan at the end? Because it was very much a Hollywood-style, we'll outsmart the monster kind of. Explain what happened.
Well, I'm glad that it didn't electrocute her. But I thought it was pretty funny, and I kind of predicted it was going to happen right before it happened. But I didn't mind it. It was good.
Oh, did you think it was going to be you predicted that it wasn't going to work, or that they were going to try to do some kind of stupid shit?
Well, as she was in the pool, I was like, the thing's going to, like, try to electrocute her, like, right as it started to do it, you know?
I was actually going to... I was afraid that it wasn't going to be... The Burning Moon is behind, by the way, is that German film you guys should check out that Danny hates, but I love it.
No, don't check it out.
It's great. It's a great movie. Anyway, with this, I was afraid that the electricity was actually going to be used to kill the monster, and I was going to be like, this is going to be like the weak kind of ending where they're going to kill a ghost with electricity, or it'll counterbalance the spirit's power or some stupid shit like that. Right. But the director had
celibacy is the only way to not get the spirit after you.
The director's interview, where he states that he wanted to show that these kids they're thinking with all they have. They're really, these kids aren't necessarily intelligent. They're not stupid, but they don't know how to fight off this fucking monster. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I don't think anyone does.
Right. So they try to electrocute this creature, this faceless
they need Dr.
creature.
Ruth.
And the creature just kind of turns it back in on them by flinging these TV sets. Most of the part they're not. I think the first time he kicks a TV into the pool, the electric shorts it out, but it's not. It's not enough length or enough power to kill her. Then it just starts flinging TV sets at her head, which hits her here and there. And it's like a funny scene because it makes it really an intense sequence, and I think that as a finale, that's really awesome because this film does not really have an ending to it. Because at the very
end, the ending is that these people are fucked.
They're fucked
literally.
pretty much. Because at the very end,
They were walking past prostitutes at the end, so I'm assuming
so I
that
thought I was figuring that he did have sex with those hookers, although it was.
You know what's pretty cool though, for his sake? His girlfriend is like totally cool with him like fucking random people.
Yeah, and the thing is that she's now a basket case pretty much. So now Paul, for whatever, want in his life, wanted this relationship with this girl, now is dating her, but she's totally broken in a way.
You know what would be funny? If, like, so he's fucking all these different prostitutes all the time to not get the curse, and then, like, he catches, like, an actual STD and she dumps him.
Right, that's what it does. He just walks in and his penis looks like a conch shell with all that fucking, all that shit underwater, whatever that's called, that's what it'd be. But
brine?
Yeah, I think, brine and stuff like that. But, like, Paul, obviously there's a scene where it's left up in the air whether he does sleep with hookers, but I guess it's implied that he does. But at the very end, you see them both walking hand in hand, and you do see somebody walking in the background in the very center, but you never know with this kind of film. So it always has that innate sense of dread, and but it's really so cool the way it's done. Besides some wonky visual stuff, like the part where Paul's on the beach and they get swatted away, like that was a really bad obvious effect in the film. Besides that, it's really good. Like there's sequences where it uses more practical effects or camera trickery, like when she's in the pool and it looks like she's a double of herself, like a head conjoined by the neck, kind of. Like it's really pretty looking visuals, but it's all done not using like super special effects. Besides the girl with like the split leg backwards and stuff like that. Also, the best friend, the girl with the black hair, the girl with the glasses. Like, she was she was reading a novel on her little conch shell, that little shell that she had.
Yeah,
like
right. I've never seen that
thing doesn't
before.
actually exist, like that thing that she was using in the film, because the director said he didn't want to date the film by having cell phones in it. Which I love when movies don't, date themselves, and you can kind of watch it years later and be like, oh, it's kind of like why I like The Gate so much, even though The Gate is.
Oh, that's 80s. How you could do it. You just gave me an idea.
Very good.
When you said date yourself, she could fuck herself, and the entity would just like implode.
Maybe she can, put one of those dildos that have a suction cup on it in the mirror, and she'll just keep fucking the mirror, and then
and then the thing's like attacking the mirror.
It's like a confused dog. You know how the dog attacks itself in the mirror?
Right. It's like barking at the mirror.
But there's also characters like Jay's sister who, everybody is kind of pushed to the background. The sister's not necessarily really important, more like of a moral kind of support, but she's not really too much of a impact on the storyline as opposed to like Peter is, and the neighbor guy who has sex with her.
Which one's Peter?
Peter's the main guy that she likes to crush. I mean, the guy that
that's Paul. I'm sorry,
Paul.
Jerk.
Paul likes her, right?
You got the P right.
But it's a really interesting film, and it's done really well. Like we can't stress enough how great it is.
Yeah,
I'm sure we spoiled the shit out of it, but
the music is amazing.
Yeah, the soundtrack, right? The soundtrack. Let me look up the soundtrack. Say a little something about it while I look up the soundtrack, because people should look the soundtrack.
It's all kind of cheesy, synth. It made me feel like I was in a video game or something. And I like
Disaster Piece. The band is called Disaster Piece.
Oh, it was all one band. Awesome.
Disaster Piece. So they did a soundtrack for It Follows, which I think you guys should check out. It's a soundtrack that is probably bizarre by itself, but in the film it works very well, and then it sticks out. I totally think about it. It's kind of like I wouldn't say it's like John Carpenter-esque, but it's very much. I like how all these new films are using these kind of strange soundtracks. But they're all very much a throwback to 80s kind of synth stuff that you're saying, like new synthwave, or I think that's the new term that they call it when it's kind of retro. It's either called retro.
Well, they called it chiptune, which I've never heard before.
For this one, chiptune. I think chiptune. The difference with that is it sounds kind of like video game stuff, like 8-bit kind of music, which I think is chiptune, but it has kind of a syncopation and beats like that. And retro wave is more like 80s style kind of music. I don't know if Spring had that style of music.
What's the best soundtrack ever? It's not a horror movie, but Drive.
Right, and that's retro wave.
Movie.
That's retro wave.
Yeah,
'cause it's an
that
80s
movie, the
style
soundtrack like really makes it.
There's a lot of good music. I started getting into a lot of that music, so I mean, the soundtrack for this one is great, and you can find some of the tracks on YouTube. But all in all, it's a really, really strong, solid film that takes its simple kind of premise and makes it interesting, especially with that that creeping creature that just follows you and it doesn't look the same. And there are parts where they try to do that. They do have jump scares, but they're very effective. And it's not traditional jump scares where they open a door and
they're not cheesy jump scares.
Right.
They're good jump scares.
There's that one scene in the pool with the pool of blood, which makes you think maybe it's it's over, but you never really feel like it's over at all, because how can you shoot something to death that got
and
shot
the movie
in the
keeps
head
going.
Yeah, because remember they shoot that creature in the head earlier, it got up, so her shooting in the pool is not gonna make any fucking difference. Anyway, with that, I'll give this movie a very lovely 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Hold on. First, how did they explain the girl getting shot in the foot to like the hospital? Like they look that shit up. You know what I mean? Come on. What's going on here?
I don't know.
It's a movie, right? 8 out of 10. Getting confronted by a woman pissing her pants and not knowing whether to be scared or slightly turned on.
Okay. I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10. Having sex with somebody who's drugged and in a hospital bed, only to be killed by first yourself and then your naked mom.
And with that, Danny, what's the final word?
Star Fox.
The horror deconstruction.